off while the black taxi trade withers, and basically to blame the market, which as far as is what I think is happening. But while we are supporting the motion, I would just urge caution in the wording in the motion that seeks to have the action plan as soon as possible, because it does need to be the right plan. Assemblyman Bakari has referenced a round table that was promised and not delivered, so we do need it to be the right plan with the right actions. If that takes a little bit longer, that's fine by me, but I don't think that's a major issue. On the amendment, this is not a short speech, apologies. On the amendment, I think it comes from a fundamental error which is causing real problems for the taxi trade. And yeah, you do need to treat modes of transport differently, but what seems to have happened is in managing private car use, trying to manage private car use, the black taxis, which is a form of shared transport, has been caught in the crossfire. So we're going to be voting against that motion. It's just wrong, frankly. So we support the recommendations in the motion, support our black taxi trade, and we'll be voting for the motion.
Assembly Member Best, please.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm really glad to hear about the support, so I almost feel like I don't need to tear down the Greens now, but I can't get away from that. Because not only just did your first thing you did in this chamber was ask us to look at a Vision Zero motion, which we all supported, then presented with a case of where somebody had been injured on the road, took the action to do nothing at all, not amend that and vote against that motion. You then, the second motion that you brought to this chamber was in supporting older people, and now we get to this motion, you have the opportunity to support older people that rely on black taxis to make hospital appointments, and you want to vote that down again. So you need to actually think about your actions and live by them. It's not all about the easy words that you find it easy to sign up to. It's thinking about the wider picture, and I know for a fact constituents that struggle to get to hospital appointments in London because the only taxis that they can get to take them from outer London into those inner London specialist hospitals are black taxis, and they are not able to get to those hospitals because of the fact that they've been cut off from these schemes. And in the New World Order, which I think you mentioned earlier, Chair, the New Order, in this New World Order, in which we don't have private vehicles, we will need black taxis, we will need taxis to help people get about. You can't get away from that. So we need to support that now. So if you really do want to see less private vehicles on the road, you need to see taxis supported, and you need to see black taxis into the future. Thank you.
Assembly Member Polanski, did you want to?
I think Assembly Member Russell's going to sum up.
It's only because he reserved. If you want.
Yeah, it's only because it was reserved. Assembly Member Russell, could you sum up on the amendment?
Yes. And I just want to be absolutely clear that we support everything in your motion up to point D. So all that stuff about not supporting black cabs is beside the point. Now, the reason that I was questioning the purpose of this very broad wording in section D about giving taxis the same access as buses to traffic management schemes totally broadly, just anything, that actually is part of the issue with road danger. That is part of the problem. And we have to be consistent with the Mayor's transport strategy and with the Mayor's policies. So I just want to be absolutely clear that the other points in your motion make very good sense, and we support them. And I was very clear about that in my first speech. But voting for something that would reinstate that taxi access to the very deadly Bank Junction, where personally I've lain down in the road with many other people protesting after another death at that junction a few years back when Boris Johnson was Mayor of London, that, those changes that have been made in the City of London have been made for a purpose, and that purpose is Vision Zero. And that is why we are voting against, and unless our amendment passes.
Assembly Member Garrett, to sum up, please. No, you formally. I do apologise. Sorry. My impression is you're talking all the time.
Well, I am, but that's
so that's why I didn't realise you'd turned it down. Assembly Member Prince to.
Yeah. Well,
Caroline, move.
Thank you for the noises off. I just find it incredible from the Greens, actually. First of all, I'd like to thank Assemblymember Baker for a very good intervention and agree wholeheartedly what she said. But I find it incredible from the Greens. Do you not know that black cabs are the only public vehicle that is able to take someone from door to door? Yes, we all support walking and cycling. I do both, funnily enough. But there are those, unfortunately, in our capital who cannot do either. And I don't know if you've ever tried it, because I have. To get a bus to stop near Bank Station is impossible. To get a bus to stop anywhere near it is impossible. The bus stops are hundreds of yards, hundreds of metres away from that central hub. And only a black cab would be able to pick you up from your door and drop you off at the very point that you need to be dropped off. And if you've got a disability, a walking impairment, then you need that service. And this current system of stopping cabs using where certain buses go is working against those who are less fortunate in London, and we as Assembly members should be standing up for those people.
Thank you. Assembly Member Garrett, please.
Very briefly, thank you for everyone who's spoken and for what I anticipate will be widespread support for, I think, an important motion. I don't want to dwell on the comments from the Greens, but I do think perhaps people might reflect on the implication of saying that allowing taxis into a bus lane presents an impossible danger to pedestrians. I think perhaps cabbies themselves might resent the implication of that. Nevertheless, I welcome the not quite unanimous support. Thank you very much for all those who I imagine shortly will be supporting it, and I will finish my remarks there. Thank you.
Assembly Member Russell, I do realise I got things out of order earlier, so if you briefly want to come back.
Thank you for acknowledging that, and no, don't worry.
Oh, right, okay. Right, that being said, all those in favour of the motion, please indicate. The amendment. All those in favour of the amendment, please indicate.
Votes on the amendment. There are 1, 2, 3 votes in favour, Chair.
Unanimous.
Votes against the amendment?
All those against.
Sorry.
That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 20 votes against. That falls, Chair.
Thank you. All those in favour of the motion, please indicate.
That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I count anyway. Thank you very much. And votes against the motion. That is.
Oh, votes against. I do apologise.
That motion is carried, Chair.
Thank you. Now we get to
Last motion, Chair.
the last motion.
Alex, we've got one more motion.
Can't we ask Keith Prince to draft an emergency motion, because he's only had 3 motions so far, isn't he?
I won't take it personally. Well, no, I will. Thank you for indulging us. Just to remind you that I've adapted the proposal to take into account what the Labour Group has said. Labour Group has said. OWL was adopted by around 18 London boroughs, and its job was to inform residents of when crime, of relevant information when crime was in their area. It's worked successfully in some boroughs, but I'm not going to try and say that it hasn't been all over London. But it has worked successfully in some parts of London. When I was notified that this was going to be abandoned, I thought, what a waste of data. What a waste of those contacts that have been built up over those years, because OWL could be very focused in its responsiveness to crime. So it could just target particular neighbourhoods where perhaps there had been some car crime taking place or some burglaries taking place, and informing residents to lock up, to make sure, and to look after themselves. So the transition, rather than transitioning to a new system that might be better for the whole of London, it's just been stopped. And I really do regret that. And I recognise that there may be challenges with the scheme, but that's an argument for making the scheme better and perhaps more efficient. Not really a good argument for just stopping it, because now that those communications will have to take place on an ad hoc basis by members of the community, whereas beforehand there were people employed or part of their role to notify members of the public. So I do welcome this amendment proposed by the Labour group, which I've now incorporated. And it's my intention to just bring this to the top of the agenda. Policing is by consent, as we all know, and the better the relationships the police can have with the public, the better for the police force. And so I do hope you can support this motion. Thank you. Second, I forgot who's second. Assembly Member Georgiou, sorry.
Thank you. Happy to second, Chair. Look, the motion sets out, some of the key statistics and the benefits of OWL, and Assembly Member Boff, I think, covered all the relevant points. The one additional point I would make is that having used OWL in my part of the world in Enfield, although the borough didn't sign up, we piggybacked off of someone else's, my local residents, is that one of my biggest frustrations in politics is when you have people complain but don't get involved in the process. Now, one of the benefits of OWL is that it did bring in residents. It was a useful tool, so they could see what was going on in the area. It was quite simple to use and easily accessible on a various number of devices. So I just say, if you have residents, as we all do, that want to get increasingly involved within crime in their area, OWL's actually a very good tool to do so. So that's the only thing that I'd add to the debate. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Assembly Member Hirani.
Thank you, and thank you for accepting suggestions from the Labour group on improving the motion. Certainly in the boroughs that I represent in Brendan Harrow, OWL works well, but I know that isn't the case uniform across those that have OWL. But also there are boroughs that don't have an OWL type or OWL system as well. So I think our suggestions were made on the basis of seeing how we can make sure that if OWL is to cease, or if it's not possible, at least if the funding can be retained or increased even, to introduce or have an equivalent service that can cover more of London so that more boroughs and more residents benefit from it, or at least continue what we have at the moment. OWL, I think doing nothing is not an option, just because of the boroughs that have them, the goodwill that has been created as a result of verified information from the Met Police going out to residents on crime and antisocial behaviour issues in the area. Residents do value it, and having some form of system that continues that will be beneficial for Londoners.
Thank you. I could exercise my right to sum up for 3 minutes, but it's the last motion and you'd hate me even more than you do now. So, that being said, let's put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate.
Unanimous, Chair.
Unanimous. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, Alex clearly hates OWL.
We next move on to item 8. The Assembly is asked to note the commitments made by the Mayor of London during the London Assembly Mayor's Question Time held between August and October 2024. Do you agree with the recommendation?
Can I AOB very briefly? I don't know if it's the appropriate moment.
AOB at the end, Chair.
I will do AOB at the end. At the end. Well, let's get through this stuff first. And, there's number 9 from myself. The Assembly is asked to agree to delegate authority to me as Chair of the Assembly in consultation with group leaders to write to the Mayor to confirm the Assembly's continued support to petition for the transfer of the coat of arms and to outline proposed next steps. Do you agree with that recommendation?
Yes, indeed.
The Assembly is asked to note the Police and Crime Committee's decision further to its meetings held on the 23rd of October 2024 and as set out in Appendix 2 to hold a confirmation hearing and not to object to the proposed appointment of Kaya Comer-Schwartz to the Office of Deputy Mayor for Policing and Crime.
Noted.
Is that agreed? Yeah, this is an agree one. It is proposed that the London Assembly agrees to use the plenary meeting held on the 5th of December principally to hold a question and answer session with invited guests on the Mayor's Adult Skills Fund. Can we agree that recommendation?
Agree.
The next meeting of the Assembly will be a question time meeting at 10 a.m. on the 21st of November here at City Hall.
Lovely.
And now we come to any other business Chair considers urgent. Let's hope it's urgent.
It's not an emergency motion, I promise. It's just that Kai is in the gallery and Kai is Zane's father. He wants to extend the thanks to everyone for passing unanimously, and also to say if anyone would like to be in a photo to meet in London's living room shortly after the meeting for any Assembly member. Thank you
you very much for that invitation and welcome. That being said, the meeting I will now pull to a close. Thank you.
This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast